I saw a stray dog near the playground and what I thought were her puppies cuddled close. But as I got nearer, a familiar cry froze me in place. I knew I had to act and called 911 immediately, hoping it wasn't already too late. The unexpected sound I heard changed everything, sending me into a panic-driven frenzy. The playground was eerily quiet for an early morning. Normally, you'd hear the laughter of children and the chatter of parents. But today, there was nothing. Just the occasional rustle of leaves. It was unsettling. The silence made me even more aware of the mother dog and her puppies. I couldn't help but glance around, searching for any sign of someone else who might help. I hesitated, but approached the scene, noticing the dog's gaunt frame and the puppies nursing hungrily. She looked underfed, her ribs showing slightly through her fur. The puppies seemed content though, happily suckling milk. I felt a pang in my heart seeing their condition and knew this was a situation that needed immediate attention. Just what had happened here for things to get this bad? The twine around her neck suggested she might have been abandoned. It wasn't a proper collar, more like a rough makeshift leash. I wondered who could leave a dog like this, especially one with puppies. The twine was frayed and dirty, indicating it had been on her for a while. It added another layer of mystery to the unsettling situation before me. I couldn't shake a sense of foreboding despite the neighborhood always being safe. It was like the air itself was heavy with something unspoken. Normally, I felt comfortable around here, but today was different. The mother dog's wary eyes didn't help. My instincts told me there was more to this scene than met the eye. I decided to stay alert as I continued to assess the situation. As I got closer, I looked for any signs of immediate danger. My eyes scanned the area, searching for anything out of place. The atmosphere was tense, making my heart pound with each step. I was expecting to see something alarming, but there was nothing obvious. Still, the eerie quietness and the dog's condition made me remain cautious and focused on my surroundings. I scanned the area for anyone suspicious. Maybe there was someone responsible for this, hiding nearby. I looked around, half expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows, but the playground was deserted. The uneasy feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I had to find out more. The mother dog was looking at me as if she knew I was her best hope. I noticed faint tracks leading away from the dog, as if someone had been here recently. They were faint, almost indistinguishable against the ground. My curiosity piqued. I decided to follow them. My eyes kept darting back to ensure the mother dog and her puppies were still there. What if these tracks led to answers? I hoped they would reveal something useful, maybe even someone who could help. My heart raced as I followed the tracks, eyes flitting back to ensure the mother dog and her puppies were still there. The path was uneven, and I had to be careful not to trip. Each step was filled with nervous anticipation. I didn't know what I'd find at the end, but I kept going. My instincts told me that whatever lay ahead was important. The tracks led to a cluster of nearby bushes. They were dense and overgrown, creating a natural hiding spot. My stomach tightened at the thought of what could be hidden there. I cautiously approached, using my hands to push aside branches and leaves. The sound of rustling made me pause. What or who could be behind these bushes? Gathering my courage, I took a deep breath and peered through. Cautiously, I pushed through the branches. The undergrowth was thick and twigs scratched at my skin as I moved forward. I felt a mixture of fear and determination driving me on. The silence around me was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves. I knew I had to be careful, but my curiosity pushed me forward. What lay beyond these bushes? Suddenly, I heard the rustling of movement. My heart skipped a beat as I froze in place, listening intently. The sound came from deeper within the bushes. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to make me uneasy. Was it an animal or something else? Gathering my courage, I decided to take another step forward. Each noise I made seemed louder than it actually was. Drawing a deep breath, I peered around the bushes and my eyes landed on a small, tattered blanket half buried in the dirt. The sight of it puzzled me. It looked out of place in the otherwise natural surroundings. Who would leave a blanket here? And what was it doing in such a state? I crouched down to take a closer look, careful not to disturb anything. My mind raced with questions about who had left it there and why. The blanket appeared hastily discarded, yet it seemed to have significance. As I examined the worn fabric, I couldn't help but wonder about its owner. What situation led them to abandon it here? Was it connected to the mother dog nearby? The questions swirled in my head as I tried to piece the mystery together. The blanket looked too clean to have been there long. Despite some dirt on it, I could tell it had been placed here recently. This realization made me even more suspicious. Someone had been here not too long ago. But why would they leave without taking the blanket with them? The urgency to find answers intensified, and I knew I had to keep searching. Determined, I retraced my steps back to the dog. The sight of her and her puppies grounded me, reminding me of the immediate concern at hand. I had to ensure they were safe while figuring out what was going on. As I walked back, I couldn't help but feel that the blanket and the dog's situation were linked. There had to be an explanation for all this. A crowd had started to gather, murmuring among themselves as they noticed the dog and puppies. People shared theories and expressed concern. Some offered to help, but I urged caution. The scene was delicate, and too many hands might cause more harm than good. It was clear that everyone wanted to assist, but we needed to follow the proper steps to ensure the mother dog and her puppies were safe. I explained I had called 911 and they should wait for the authorities to arrive. People nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I appreciated their willingness to help, but knew that professional assistance was essential. As I spoke, more questions arose about the dog's condition and the recent findings. I reassured everyone that help was on its way, though my own nerves were fraying. People agreed, spreading out, but staying close enough to watch. The crowd's presence was comforting in a way. Knowing others were here, ready to help, made the wait more bearable. Conversations continued in low tones as everyone kept an eye on the mother dog and her puppies. The atmosphere was tense, yet cooperative. I could sense that everyone shared a common goal, making sure the animals were safe. The anticipation in the air was palpable. Each passing minute felt like an eternity as we waited for the authorities to arrive. Parents and children alike stood by, their eyes filled with concern and curiosity. The mother dog seemed to sense the collective anxiety, her large, dark eyes scanning the crowd. We all held our breath, unified in our silent hope for a positive outcome. A woman from the group approached me, claiming she had noticed a suspicious man early that morning. She seemed genuinely concerned, urging me to pay attention to her account. Her eyes darted around nervously as she described the man's strange behavior. I felt a sense of urgency in her voice, which intrigued me. Could this man have been connected to the abandoned dog and puppies? She mentioned his agitated behavior. According to her, the man had been pacing back and forth near the playground, glancing around as if he was waiting for something or someone. His erratic movements had caught her eye, and she felt uneasy watching him. This detail was alarming and added another layer of mystery to the already tense situation. We needed to find out more. My curiosity piqued. I wanted to ask more questions, to dig deeper into what she had seen. There seemed to be a connection between this man's actions and the scene with the mother dog and puppies. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. Could this man be the one who left the dog here? Or was he involved in something even darker? Before I could question her further, sirens pierced the air. The woman and I turned our heads in unison, relief palpable in our shared glance. The sound was both jarring and reassuring, slicing through the tense atmosphere that had settled over the playground. It meant help was on the way, and whatever was happening here, we wouldn't have to face it alone. Relief washed over me as the police car pulled up. The crowd's murmurs quieted, eyes glued to the approaching vehicle. The tension in my shoulders eased slightly, knowing that professionals were here to handle the situation. The arrival of the police signified a turning point. We could finally get some answers and ensure the safety of the mother dog and her puppies. Officer Davis emerged, greeting me with a nod. His presence was authoritative, but calming. He scanned the scene, quickly assessing the situation before approaching me. I felt a sense of comfort knowing he was in charge. His calm demeanour and evident experience made me hopeful that we'd get to the bottom of this strange occurrence. We exchanged quick introductions before diving into the details. I quickly filled him in on everything: the tracks, the blanket, the suspicious man. I could see his mind working as he processed the information, taking each detail seriously. As I spoke, he nodded, asking a few clarifying questions. The more I told him, the more I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. We were getting somewhere, but we had more to uncover. He assured the crowd that they would investigate and urged everyone to stay back while they secured the scene. His authoritative tone left no room for argument, and people complied, giving the officers space to work. The air felt slightly less tense with his structured approach. I could see a few nods of approval among the onlookers, who were as eager as I was to find answers. I felt a mixture of hope and dread. Hope that the police would solve the mystery and ensure everyone's safety, and dread for what they might uncover. The situation was more serious than I initially thought, and the potential implications were alarming. Standing near the mother dog and her puppies, I couldn't help but feel the weight of what we might discover. The officer began his inspection while I kept an eye on the crowd. I noticed their curious yet uneasy expressions as they watched the authorities work. The mother dog whined softly, her anxiety seemingly growing with all the activity. Her puppies continued nursing, oblivious to the chaos around them. With each passing moment, the seriousness of the situation grew more apparent, making my nerves tingle. The mother dog whined softly, seeming more anxious with each passing moment. Her large, expressive eyes darted around nervously, taking in the bustling scene. It was clear she was unsettled by all the commotion, and her distress began to affect the mood of the crowd. People exchanged concerned glances, whispering about what could have caused such a gentle creature to feel so threatened and uneasy. Her puppies, however, remained blissfully nursing, completely unaware of the tension around them. They pressed close to their mother, eyes closed, focused solely on feeding. Their tiny bodies moved rhythmically, showing they were healthy and well cared for. Despite the mother dog's anxiety, it was clear she had been doing everything she could to provide for them. The innocence and simplicity of the puppy's actions contrasted sharply with the chaos. Suddenly, Officer Davis called me over. His voice was calm, but carried an undertone of urgency. I immediately walked toward him, feeling the collective eyes of the crowd follow me. He was crouched by the bushes, where I had earlier found the tattered blanket. His intense focus on something in the undergrowth suggested he had discovered something important. My heartbeat quickened as I approached, questions swirling in my mind. He had found something in the bushes next to the blanket. The look on his face made it clear that this wasn't just another clue. It was something significant. As I came closer, I could see him carefully moving the leaves and branches to reveal what lay beneath. The tension in the air was thick, with the crowd silencing their whispers to watch what he would uncover next. It was a small, blood-stained bandage. The sight of it made my stomach drop. There was no mistaking the dark red splotches that marred the white fabric. This was a clue that pointed to something far more sinister than we had initially thought. Officer Davis carefully picked up the bandage with gloved hands, inspecting it closely. The quiet gasps from the crowd behind me signaled their shared shock. My heart lurched at the sight of the blood-stained bandage. The implications were chilling. Someone had been injured, and it wasn't clear who or how badly. The sense of urgency intensified. I looked around, scanning the faces in the crowd, wondering if anyone else knew more than they were letting on. Officer Davis's furrowed brow indicated he was deep in thought, piecing together the details of this disturbing find. Paramedics arrived, and the mother dog and her pups were assessed to ensure they were safe and healthy. The professionals moved swiftly, their practiced hands gentle but efficient. I watched as they carefully checked each puppy, then turned their attention to the mother dog. She seemed to relax slightly, sensing the care and attention she was receiving. For a moment, I felt a slight sense of hope. I felt a slight sense of relief, but the bandage discovery lingered in my mind. The contrast between the immediate empathy for the animals and the unnerving bloody evidence couldn't have been starker. While the paramedics worked, I couldn't shake the thought of what else might be lurking nearby. Officer Davis seemed to share my concern, his eyes scanning the scene even more intently now. Officer Davis ordered that a wider search area be established. His decision showed the seriousness with which he was treating the situation. Officers began expanding their perimeter, diligently searching for more clues. The crowd murmured approvingly, understanding that this thorough approach was necessary. I felt a mix of anxiety and hope. Anxiety for what might be found, and hope that we were getting closer to some answers. His serious demeanor indicated the gravity of the situation. Officer Davis wasn't taking any chances, and that reassured me. He communicated with his team efficiently, ensuring all areas were covered. The tension among the crowd dipped slightly as they observed the methodical and professional manner in which the officers worked. But the atmosphere remained charged, the discovery of the bandage upping the stakes for everyone involved. I couldn't help but wonder what else we might find. The uneasy feeling in my stomach refused to settle. Every glance around the park seemed to show more and more people becoming anxious. The mother dog's plaintive whine didn't ease my nerves either. What other dark discoveries awaited us in this seemingly serene playground? The questions loomed large, making it hard to think clearly. I overheard a veteran officer mention recent kidnappings in surrounding areas. His voice was low, almost meant to be unheard, but the gravity of his words hit me like a ton of bricks. The pieces of the puzzle suddenly seemed to hint at something far more sinister. The situation we were all involved in wasn't just random. It could very well be connected to something much larger. My throat tightened with worry. What if the abandoned dog and the eerie silence in the playground was somehow linked to these kidnappings? The possibility made my stomach churn. I glanced at the officers who seemed to be sharing the same concern. This wasn't just about an abandoned dog anymore. The stakes had escalated, making the entire situation more critical and urgent. Could this be related? That question kept running through my mind, refusing to let go. The weight of the potential connection made my heart pound faster. I felt a chill run down my spine as the realization hit me. A connection could mean real danger for more than just the dog and her puppies. The thought was terrifying, but also pushed me to be more vigilant and involved. The thought of it made my stomach churn. The idea that the peaceful park could be a scene of something so dark was hard to wrap my head around. Yet, the stark evidence suggested otherwise. My instinct screamed at me to stay alert, to be prepared for whatever might come next. This wasn't just a simple rescue mission anymore. It had potentially dire implications. I met Officer Davis's eyes, and his solemn expression conveyed the same fear had crossed his mind. The shared understanding between us sparked a silent agreement. This was more serious than either of us initially thought. His unwavering focus and the grim set of his mouth showed he was already connecting the dots. We were both now aware of the deeper layers of this situation. Determined to help, I offered my insights and observations about anything I had seen. I recounted the tracks, the blanket, and the woman's description of the suspicious man. Every piece of information felt crucial now. Officer Davis listened intently, jotting down notes, his eyes never leaving mine. I felt a mix of fear and a strange sense of purpose driving me to assist him fully. They scoured the park and its surroundings. The officers moved methodically, their eyes scanning every inch of the area. People in the crowd watched silently, their previous chatter now hushed. The seriousness of the situation seemed to affect everyone. Each step the officers took, each bush they moved through, seemed to carry the possibility of a new, essential discovery. We all waited, breath-bated. Rumours began to circulate among the crowd about missing children. I overheard whispered speculations and hushed conversations. The discussion of potential kidnappings added to the tension, making everyone more anxious. Despite the unfolding investigation, the uncertainty continued to loom large. The possible connection to the missing children was now the primary focus, and I could feel the crowd's collective worry deepening with every passing moment. Despite the police presence, I felt uneasy. The comforting notion that law enforcement was here didn't erase the underlying fear gripping my heart. Officer Davis and his team worked diligently, but the sense of impending doom was hard to shake. The atmosphere remained thick with tension, each discovery amplifying the seriousness of the situation. Every unknown factor seemed to tighten the knot of worry in my stomach. As darkness approached, the mother dog became increasingly restless. She moved around, unable to settle, her large eyes showing anxiety. Her puppies, unaware of the growing tension, continued to nurse. People in the crowd noticed the change in her demeanour, exchanging worried glances. It was clear that the dog sensed something was amiss. The shift in the atmosphere was palpable, adding to everyone's unease. I wondered if she knew something we didn't. Animals often have instincts that humans lack. Her behaviour made me anxious, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. The mother dog's eyes searched the surroundings as if expecting something, adding to my sense of urgency. What could she be sensing that we couldn't see or hear? The officers persisted, but their tired faces showed they needed a breakthrough. They combed the area methodically, flashlights piercing the growing darkness. Every step was deliberate, every glance vigilant, but the elusive clue that would crack the case remained hidden. Their determination was apparent, yet frustration began to seep through. The crowd watched silently, the collective hope that something significant would surface visibly waning. A shout came from the far side of the park, snapping everyone's attention in that direction. An officer, flashlight beams sweeping through the dusk, stood silhouetted by the sparse trees. Something in his stance indicated urgency. The crowd murmured, curiosity and anxiety blending in their whispers. Officer Davis and I exchanged glances before rushing over. This had to be the breakthrough everyone was desperate for. An officer had found a discarded backpack near a stream. The location felt secluded, sheltered by overhanging branches and underbrush. As the officer held it up, the crowd leaned in, eyes widening with interest and fear. Officer Davis moved to examine the backpack, signalling to keep the area secure. I stood on the fringes, heart pounding, waiting to see what this new clue would reveal. Inside, they found baby supplies. The sight of tiny bottles, diapers and a pacifier was jarring and made my breath catch. Every item pointed to a child's presence, heightening the gravity of the situation. Officer Davis inspected the contents carefully, his face grim. Parents in the crowd exchanged horrified glances, their fears seemingly confirmed. This revelation added a chilling new layer to our mystery. My heart pounded as they gathered the items for evidence. The officers handled the baby supplies with care, ensuring nothing was overlooked. Each piece was meticulously catalogued, their serious expressions reflecting the weight of the discovery. The implications were terrifying, and I felt my pulse quicken with every passing second. This tangible connection to a child intensified the urgency of our search. The realization of what or who the familiar crying could be gripped everyone. Parents instinctively clutched their children closer, casting anxious glances towards the officers. The crowd's whispering grew louder, filled with speculation and dread. This clue finally closed the gap, making the earlier sound's significance horrifyingly clear. The playground's earlier silence now took on a darker meaning, urging immediate and focused action. My pulse quickened as I watched them carefully examine the area. The officers moved with purpose, searching for any additional evidence. Every rustle in the bushes and crack of a twig heightened my nerves. Officer Davis studied the ground intently, looking for any sign that might lead us further. The atmosphere was tense, everyone on edge as the officers meticulously scanned the surroundings. They discovered a newborn baby, wrapped in a dirty cloth, lying behind the bushes near the stream. The baby's faint cries broke the silence, sending a wave of shock through everyone present. Paramedics rushed forward to provide immediate care. The gravity of the situation hit us all, realization dawning that the mother dog had unknowingly led us to a life that desperately needed saving. The familiar cry I had initially heard was from the baby. It was that haunting, almost desperate sound that had pierced the eerie quiet of the playground. The realization sent a chill through me, connecting all the pieces of the morning's unsettling events. The significance of the baby's cries now loomed large, highlighting the gravity of the situation we had stumbled upon. Paramedics rushed to provide immediate care. Their actions were swift and precise, honed by years of experience. They gently examined the newborn, assessing its condition while keeping a calm demeanor. The crowd watched, their collective breath held in tense anticipation. The paramedics' presence was reassuring, a beacon of hope amid the chaos that had unfolded in the seemingly peaceful park. Officers coordinated the investigation, their efficiency a testament to their training. They communicated in clear, concise language, ensuring every detail was covered. The perimeter was secured and additional resources were called in. Evidence was carefully documented and witness statements were taken. The meticulous approach of the officers provided a measure of comfort, suggesting that we were getting closer to understanding the mysterious events. The mother dog had unknowingly led us to save a life. Her actions, driven by instinct and perhaps desperation, had been pivotal. As she stood watching the paramedics work on the baby, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for her. This resilient, undernourished animal had become an unlikely hero, guiding us to the infant in its time of need. I was left feeling a profound mix of relief and concern for the child's future. The immediate threat had been averted, but the questions about the baby's origins and circumstances remained. What kind of life lay ahead for this newborn? The day's events had shown the grim realities of the world, but also the compassion and determination of those willing to make a difference. The search yielded the baby, transforming the situation from a mystery to a rescue mission. What began with an unsettling quiet and an abandoned dog had escalated into something much larger. The gravity of the discovery weighed heavily on everyone involved, from the officers to the bystanders. The urgency we felt was now matched by the realization that we had saved a vulnerable life. The community came together to provide support and care for the rescued child. Neighbours offered blankets, food, and even temporary shelter. Parents held their own children a bit tighter, feeling a deeper sense of gratitude and vigilance. The solidarity shown was heartwarming, a silver lining in the otherwise dark and confusing morning. The park, once still and quiet, buzzed with collective compassion and resolve. Local news covered the heartwarming rescue, highlighting the dog's role in leading to the baby. Interviews with witnesses and authorities painted a picture of a community coming together in a time of need. The mother dog, initially seen as an abandoned stray, became a symbol of hope and resilience. Her image, alongside the rescued newborn, captured the hearts of everyone watching the story unfold. Authorities began piecing together the events leading up to the discovery. They reviewed surveillance footage, tracked down witnesses, and followed up on leads. The process was methodical, aimed at understanding how the baby ended up in such a vulnerable situation. Each new detail added depth to the unfolding narrative, hinting at broader issues that needed addressing. The investigation was far from over. The baby's future remained uncertain, but the immediate danger had passed, and hope prevailed. The child was in safe hands, receiving the care it desperately needed. Community members continued to offer support, showing that even in the most troubling times, there is always room for compassion. The day's events would serve as a poignant reminder of the resilience of both animals and humans in the face of adversity.